Mudworkz is actually much more than an art form. Mudworkz is what I do, what I have been doing for the last 30 years, which is working with mud. More specifically, sheetrock or drywall mud, which is used to, build people's houses. And I've been working with that material for over 30 years, and one day I woke up and decided to make some samples for some customers, and it turned into me making some artwork out of some recycled materials that I had from different jobs. I actually presented one of my pieces to a friend of mine who was an artist. He liked my work, told me that I was a good artist, and asked me to make some more, and that's how Mudworkz got started. It's a brand of art that nobody's seen before. It's unique, it's durable, and it can last forever. But it's not just the artwork. Like I said, I do work with mud in various different ways. I do custom texture designs on ceilings, walls. I do three-dimensional murals, or I can do artwork that you can take with you. And that's just not limited to the artwork. Like I said, I do interior design and construction. Been doing that for over 30 years. And basically that's what Mudworkz is all about, is me working with mud. Well, I was introduced to working with mud quite by accident. Basically, I was out of work for 6 months and had nothing to do with all this extra material that I had in my basement. And I had been hanging around with other artists who were working with a variety of materials. So I thought to myself, well, I'm familiar with sheetrock and woodwork, and I'm a carpenter, and I'm familiar with mud, so why not work with material that I'm comfortable and familiar with? And I just decided to try to make some images with the material that I was used to working with, which is the mud. Some of my first pieces were actually of President Obama. He was a great inspiration to me at the time because I was out of work, and I figured if this man could get elected, then there's nothing that I can't do, either with my skills or my artwork. So I credit President Obama for inspiring me to, just to move forward with my passion. I would say the greatest misconception that people may have about my Mudworkz, especially if you've seen it in a photograph and not in person, is that it's just paint or textured paint, which there is paint on my pieces, but the foundation of my pieces is sheetrock and drywall mud. And once that foundation is set up and dried, then I apply the paint, whether it be color or black and white. But people just have a hard time believing that it's just building supplies that I make my work out of. How I keep my artwork original and distinctive is quite simple. Simply for the fact of the matter is, I'm the only one that I know of at this point in time that's creating artwork and graphic designs created solely out of sheetrock and drywall mud. That's why I trademarked the process. I trademarked it as Mudworkz, and it's trying to create a new art form. Plus, although my pictures are made from photographs, I manipulate the photographs in a way that is unique to me, to my imagination. So I think that's what makes them quite unique, is my creativity and my imagination. Well, to date, I would have to say that my most frequent subject would have to be Michael Jackson, mainly because I'm one of his biggest fans, and also his death left a big hole in not only my heart, but I think in society as a whole. And I just thought it was fitting to do a tribute to him, not just on his passing, but also a year later on the anniversary of his birthday. I created 12 months of Michael Jackson for an event in August called Long Live the King, which was a tribute to Michael Jackson and his music and his life. I would have to say my favorite pieces to date would have to be some of my pieces from my Valentine's Day special, I did some erotic artwork, and I got great pleasure not only making the pieces, but also seeing the reaction on people's faces when they saw some of my subject matter. Erotica has always been one of my favorite subjects, so that's kind of close to my heart. Well, although I do support other artists and I do love and admire all forms of artwork, at this point in juncture, the only artwork that I have in my own home is my own, mainly because I have a lot of empty wall space and I have a lot of ideas, and I can afford my own artwork, so I want to basically turn my home into a studio. So anytime somebody comes to visit me, they have a grand idea of what Mudworkz is all about, and I try to keep it fresh. I'm in the process of putting together a network, organizing some network parties. What I want to do is get some local artists, poets, and other people that are into the arts, whether it be visual or audio or whatever. And I would like to get creative minds together, and I want to put on events that are solely focused on selling art, or CDs or whatever you have to sell. I don't want to put on art exhibits. I don't want to do poetry events for people to come and buy art at. I want to do shows that are not shows but are art sales. And when people come and walk through the door, they have a mindset of buying something from somebody that's there, a local artist from Memphis. It's all about supporting your local artists. So what I would like the readers to know at this point in time, that Memphis is now my home base. This is where I will be operating out of. Any Mudworkz that are going to be going to any other state will be done through UPS or the Postal Service. I won't be traveling back and forth as often as I was in the previous years. So Memphis is going to be my home base, and look forward to some up-and-coming Mudworkz that are going to be basically Memphis-themed Mudworkz. I'm not going to elaborate much more on that, but since I am in Memphis, my next few projects are going to be all about Memphis, and about the local flavor here in Memphis, and about supporting other artists like myself, and that's going to be my mission.